Now we get to Hegel's dialectic. Hegel's dialectic is the most well-known area of his thought, but often misunderstood. And to be honest, it's very hard to explain. It's just hard to explain. Okay, so I'm going to do the best I can in a brief time period. So, okay, relations in classical philosophy, if you look at, say, Aristotle, how one thing relates to another thing, those are accidental qualities. What I mean by that is if a relation is an accidental quality, relations don't define what a thing is. That doesn't mean they're unimportant, but a thing retains its essence regardless of how it relates to another thing. Okay, so identities are found within things themselves, and relations are separate objects that really exist coming into contact with each other. They can change each other, for sure, but relations do not define what a thing is. For Hegel, relations we're not talking about external relations. We're not talking about just one object bumping into another object and relating to it. Instead, we are saying that how a thing relates to other things, or how a person relates to other persons, those are actually essential to an essence or an identity. So how I relate to something defines who I am. So I am defined by my relations. And this makes sense within his monistic perspective, because all things are really one. So there are no just purely external relations, because we're all part of one unified thing in Hegel's view. So he would say that internal relations, so relations within things, make a thing what it is. So an essence is defined by its relations, and that includes tensions. So that includes conflict. So a thing is defined by its relations, and often in those relations comes conflict. And the world spirit develops through this conflict, because that conflict is overcome as this world spirit grows. So this is what is often summarized in Hegel as this thesis, antithesis, synthesis perspective. Now, to be clear, thesis, antithesis, synthesis never shows up in Hegel. His most famous idea isn't even in his writings, strange as that is. It does show up, I believe it shows up in Schelling first, but it does end up being a tool that some immediate followers of Hegel start to use to describe his thought. So there's some debate as to how accurate it is to his thought. And I tend to think that it is helpful because this is so convoluted. I think it's a helpful way to explain things, but it's not exact or comprehensive. So it's kind of a simplification of what he says. But here's the idea. The idea is, you posit one idea. One idea shows up in history. Someone says, I don't like that, and they posit the opposite idea. And then those two things kind of battle it out. And then out of that comes this conclusion that is a synthesis of these two ideas. And that is kind of what he's talking about when we speak about this dialectical relationship that includes these tensions. So the world spirit has conflicts and overcomes those conflicts. But it's all within this Geist, or this world spirit. So it's not like a person over here and a person over here that are separate from one another, because the tensions are essential to reality itself. Reality includes those tensions and the overcoming of those tensions. Okay, which then Kierkegaard is going to challenge later. But so the absolute, or this absolute that underlies all things, comes to this self-realization. So the process of the world spirit, or the process of the Geist, is one of continual self-realization. So the absolute, this world spirit, this Geist grows. It comes to know itself better. And it does that through a growth in rationality and freedom. Those are essential. And so you see this influence of Kant on Hegel's thought as he's saying it becomes more rational. So we become more rational as time goes on, because as the Geist is coming to know itself, it becomes more rational. And as it is more rational, it then acts more rationally and thereby is more free. Okay. Hegel is going to describe a reality in three aspects, and Hegel uses threes a lot. I do think this is his theological background, his Trinitarian background, and he uses the Trinity in some ways to describe reality, though he has a odd interpretation of the Trinity. But these are three aspects of reality that are essential. One is logic, so we're talking about rationality. He's still not really going to be talking about universal principles of rationality. He's going to place that within the historical process. And then he's going to talk about nature, but nature not just in the sense that nature runs its course, but also the Geist starts to come to self-understanding. So we're talking about this growth and understanding of natural laws and how nature functions. So we grow. The Geist grows through reason and self-understanding as nature. We begin to understand the reality of nature that's showing up in his historical epoch. And then we have spirit. Spirit is the underlying fundamental reality, which is consciousness. We have subjects and objects, which are really one. He's not going to totally conflate subject and object, but they're both part of this spirit. Logic and nature are both encapsulated by spirit as this underlying reality.